I was cleaning the attic when I found the old box. It was white, it was dusty. A thin layer of gray dust covered the top. I touched the surface with one finger and the dust moved. I had not touched this box in many years, maybe 7 years, maybe longer. I picked it up carefully. It was heavier than I expected. I held it with both arms and walked slowly down the attic stairs. My knees ached. I was not as young as I used to be. I carried the box downstairs and put it on the kitchen table. My wife Laura was outside. I could see her through the window. She was in the garden. She was cutting flowers. She always cut flowers on Saturday mornings, red and yellow ones. She would put them in a glass jar on the windowsill. She did this every single week, without fail. I opened the box. Inside was our wedding album. I smiled. I had forgotten about this album. I remembered our wedding day. We got married 7 years ago, the 12th of June, a warm and sunny day. The sky was very blue. There were white flowers everywhere. I had been so nervous in the morning. I dropped my tie on the floor 3 times. Tom laughed at me. I was happy that day. I remembered being happy. I opened the album carefully. The cover was cream-colored and smooth. Someone had tied a thin blue ribbon around it years ago. The ribbon was faded now. I untied it gently and laid it on the table. The first page showed the church, small and white, a wooden door painted dark green, old stone walls, green trees around it, sunlight on the stone path leading up to the entrance. I remembered walking up that path in new shoes that pinched my feet. I turned the page. I saw the photo of the bride and groom. I stopped. I stopped moving completely. I stopped breathing for a moment. I just stared. The man in the photo was me. I could see my own face clearly. My black jacket, my white shirt, the small blue flower that Tom had pushed into my front pocket that morning as a joke. I recognized the ring on my left hand. Silver. Simple. The same ring I still wore now. But the woman standing next to me was not Laura. She was tall. Laura was not tall. She was slim and elegant. She had dark brown hair, long and loose, falling softly over one shoulder. Her face was turned slightly toward the camera. Her skin was pale and very smooth. Her eyes were large and very green. She was wearing a simple white dress with lace at the sleeves. She was beautiful, but she was not my wife. I looked at the photo for a very long time. My eyes moved from her face to Laura's face in my memory, from the photo to the kitchen window where Laura stood with her flowers. They were not the same person, not even close. The woman in the photo had a longer, thinner face, high cheekbones, a small, soft mouth, green eyes. She was 3 or 4 centimeters taller than Laura. Her hands were different. Her hair was completely different. I turned to the next page. More photos. The ceremony. The vows. The rings. The same woman in every single one. Standing beside me, smiling at me, holding my hand as we walked down the aisle together. Page after page after page. 32 photos in total. Every photo showed the same woman who was not my wife. I closed the album slowly. I put it flat on the table. My hands were shaking. I looked at them. I held them steady. I breathed in and out. The back door opened, and Laura came inside. She was holding a bundle of red flowers. She had a small smear of mud on her right cheek. She looked cheerful. She saw the album on the table, and her face changed just slightly, just for a second. Then she smiled. "Oh," she said, "our wedding album. I haven't seen that in years." I looked at her face. Brown eyes, short hair, small and round-faced. I had known this face for 7 years. "Who is this?" I said. I opened the album to the main photo and pointed. Laura looked at the photo. She did not hesitate at all. "That is me," she said simply. "No," I said. "That is not you." She put the flowers down on the counter. She came and stood beside me and looked at the photo again. "Daniel," she said, laughing a little. "Of course that is me. It was 7 years ago. My hair was longer then. I looked very different." "The woman in this photo has green eyes," I said. "Your eyes are brown." "Photos do strange things to eye color," she said. "The lighting in that church was unusual. The windows had colored glass." "That is not you," I said again. Her smile faded. "You are being strange," she said. "Why are you doing this?" "I am not doing anything," I said. "I am asking a simple question." She picked up the album and closed it firmly. She put it back in the white box. She carried the box to the hallway and set it against the wall. "Come," she said. "I made soup. It will get cold." I sat at the table. I ate the soup. It tasted like nothing. I watched Laura across the table. She talked about the garden. She talked about a television program she had watched. She talked about needing new curtains for the bedroom. I said very little. I nodded and smiled when she looked at me. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. That night I could not sleep. I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling. Laura slept quietly beside me. I listened to her breathe. I thought about the photo, the green eyes, the dark hair, the tall, slim woman in the lace dress. At 3 a.m, I got up very quietly. I went out to the hallway. The white box was there. I opened it. I took the album. I went to the kitchen and sat at the table under the bright light. I looked at every photo again, all 32 of them, slowly, carefully. On the 6th page, there was a wide photo of the guests, rows of people in the church pews. I looked at the faces. I recognized Tom near the front. I recognized my Uncle Bernard. But most of the guests on the right side of the church I did not know. They would have been her guests, her family, her friends, whoever she was. On the 12th page, I noticed something else. In the background of one photo, behind the guests outside on the stone path, there was a small sign fixed to the gatepost. The letters were small, but I could read them clearly. Elmwood Church. I stopped. We got married at St. Peter's. I was certain of that. Laura had told me so many times. She had said she loved St. Peter's because her grandmother had been married there. She had said the light through the windows was beautiful, but this sign said Elmwood Church. I had never heard of Elmwood Church. I turned back to the main photo. I stared at the woman's face. She looked happy. She looked completely, genuinely happy. She was not posing for the camera. She was looking at me, looking at the man beside her, and her face showed something real. I put the album in my bag. I carried it upstairs. I slid it under the bed, behind some boxes of books. I did not want Laura to take it. I lay awake for the rest of the night. In the morning, I told Laura I had an early meeting at work. I put on my coat and picked up my bag and got in my car. I did not drive to work. I typed Elmwood Church into my phone. It showed a small church on Orchard Lane, about 20 minutes away. I had driven past that road many times, but never turned down it. I drove there now. Elmwood Church was exactly like the church in the photo. White walls, green trees, a wooden door, painted dark green, the same stone path. I parked my car and walked inside. A man was there. He was old and small, with white hair. He was arranging yellow flowers in a vase near the front of the church. He heard me come in and turned around. "Good morning," he said. "Can I help you?" "I hope so," I said. "I got married in this church about 7 years ago." June the 12th. My name is Daniel Hayes. The old man thought for a moment. He tilted his head to one side. June the 12th, he said slowly. "Yes, I remember that wedding. A lovely day, very warm." "Good," I said. I took a breath. "Do you remember the bride?" "Of course," he said without hesitation. "A beautiful young woman, very quiet and polite. She shook my hand before the service and thanked me for looking after the church so well." He smiled at the memory. I always remembered that. "What was her name?" I said. "Eleanor," he said. "Eleanor Hayes, your wife." I felt the floor shift under my feet, not physically, but something moved inside me. "Eleanor," I repeated. "That was her name," he said. "Is everything all right, son?" "Yes," I said. "Yes, thank you." I walked back to my car. I sat inside. I did not start the engine. I sat there for a long time with my hands on the steering wheel. Eleanor. That was not Laura's name. Laura's name was Laura Ann Porter. I had seen her passport. I had seen her driving license. I had signed the marriage certificate myself. Laura Ann Porter and Daniel James Hayes. But the man in the church remembered a woman named Eleanor. I drove to the town library. I parked and went inside and asked to use the archive computer. The woman at the desk showed me where to sit. I searched the local newspaper from 7 years ago. I found the wedding announcements from June. On June the 15th, 3 days after the 12th, there was a small notice. Daniel Hayes and Eleanor Crane were married on Saturday at Elmwood Church. A reception was held at the White House Hotel. Eleanor Crane. I sat back in the chair. I read the line 3 more times. Eleanor Crane. I had never heard that name in my life. I drove home. Laura was not there. She had left a note on the kitchen counter saying she had gone to her sister in Bristol and would be back that evening. I went through the house alone. I opened every drawer. I went through every cupboard. I looked in boxes at the back of the wardrobe. I checked the small shelf in the utility room where old papers collected over the years. I was looking for anything, any document, any photograph, any trace of a woman named Eleanor. In the very back of a drawer in my office, underneath some old instruction booklets and a broken watch, I found a small envelope, white, slightly yellowed at the edges. Inside was a photograph, a man and a woman at a beach. The man was me, but younger, 6 or 7 years younger. I was wearing a blue shirt and laughing. The woman was beside me. She had long dark hair, loose around her face, and very green eyes. She was holding a paper cup of something hot. She was laughing at whatever I had just said. She looked completely at ease, completely happy. On the back of the photo, written in small, neat handwriting, Danny and Ellie, Brighton, 2016. Danny, Ellie, a name for Eleanor. I held the photo and I looked at it for a long time. I tried very hard to remember that day. The beach, the paper cup, the laughter. I pressed my mind back and back, but I could not find it. That part of my life was simply not there, like a room with a locked door. But holding the photo, I felt something, not a memory, something older than memory, something warm and faint, like light coming through a curtain. I put the photo carefully in my inside jacket pocket. I sat on the floor of my office for a while. I did not move. The house was very quiet around me. I thought about what I knew. I had a wedding album showing a woman who was not Laura. I had a church that was not St. Peter's. I had a newspaper record with a completely different name. I had a beach photo of myself and a woman with green eyes. And I had a name, Eleanor Crane. I also thought about what I did not know. I did not know what had happened to Eleanor. I did not know who Laura really was. I did not know why my memory had been erased so completely that I had lived 7 years without questioning a single thing. I thought about the accident. I had been in a car accident 7 years ago, a bad one. That was the one true thing I knew with certainty. I remembered almost nothing from before it. Everything before that accident was a soft gray blank. Doctors had said that was normal, that trauma to the head could erase years, that memories might come back slowly over time, or might never return at all. I had accepted that. I had never questioned it. Now I was questioning everything. I called my friend Tom. Tom had known me for 15 years. He was the person I trusted most in the world. He had been my best man. He had stood beside me in that church. But which church? Tom, I said when he answered, can you meet me today? It's important. Of course, he said. What's wrong? You sound strange. I'll tell you when I see you, I said. The coffee place on the high street, 1 o'clock. I arrived early. I sat at a corner table with my back to the wall. I put the wedding album and the beach photo on the table in front of me. Tom arrived exactly on time. He always did. He sat down across from me. He looked at the album. He looked at the photo. His expression did not change, but his eyes went quiet. Tom, I said, tell me the truth about my wedding. Tom wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. He looked at me steadily. What do you want to know? He said. Everything, I said. He was quiet for a moment. I've been wanting to tell you for years, he said, but every time I tried, you didn't want to hear it. You told me I was confused. The last time I tried, you nearly stopped speaking to me altogether, so I stopped. I'm asking now, I said. Please. Tom looked at the beach photo. That is Eleanor, he said. Eleanor Crane. She was a primary school teacher. She was clever and funny, and she loved walking, and she made the best lemon cake I have ever eaten. You met her at a gallery opening 5 years before the wedding. You called me that same night to tell me about her. I said nothing. I let him continue. You married her at Elmwood Church, he said. June the 12th, 7 years ago. I was your best man. I put that blue flower in your pocket as a joke. I closed my eyes. 3 weeks after the wedding, Tom said quietly, you were both in a car on the motorway. A truck came across the central reservation. The truck hit the passenger side. Eleanor was in the passenger seat. I opened my eyes. You were in intensive care for 17 days, Tom said. Head injury, internal bleeding. They did not know if you would survive. When you woke up, you had lost large sections of your memory. The doctors said it was common after that kind of trauma to the head. When I woke up, I said slowly, Laura was there. Yes, Tom said. I came to the hospital the day you woke up. Laura was already there. She was holding your hand. A nurse told me she was your wife. I said that wasn't right, but you looked at me and you said, this is my wife, Laura. You said it like I was the one who was confused. Because I believed it, I said. I know, Tom said. I could see that. You truly believed it. But Daniel, I had never seen that woman before in my life. I had never met her at any event, any gathering, any dinner. In all the years I knew you and Eleanor, I had never once seen Laura Porter. And Eleanor? I said. What happened to Eleanor? Tom's face was very sad. She disappeared, he said. She was treated at the hospital after the accident. Fewer injuries than you. but she was kept in a different ward. And then, suddenly, she was gone. The hospital said she had been moved to a private facility. I tried to find her, but I had no family contacts, no next of kin information, nothing. And you never found her? I said. No, he said. And after a while, with you insisting Laura was your wife, with everything looking normal from the outside, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was real anymore. I looked at the album on the table between us. Someone replaced her, I said. It was not a question. Yes, Tom said. I believe so. We sat in silence for a minute. Outside on the high street, people walked past with bags of shopping, with children, with dogs on leads, ordinary Saturday people, normal lives. I need to find Eleanor, I said. How? Tom said. I don't know yet, I said, but I will. That evening, I sat at my computer for a long time. I searched every combination I could think of. Eleanor Crane, Eleanor Hayes, Eleanor Crane teacher, Eleanor Crane missing. Almost nothing came up. An old social media profile that had not been updated in 7 years. A comment on a school newsletter from 8 years ago. A name on a charity run list from a long time ago. And then I found it on a community forum from 7 years ago. A post from a woman named Ruth Adler. The post said, I am trying to find my friend Eleanor Crane. She was a teacher at Oakfield Primary School. She was injured in a road accident in June, and I have not been able to contact her since. If anyone knows her or knows how to reach her family, please message me. I am very worried. Ruth Adler. I searched for her. She was not hard to find. A community volunteer in a town called Breton, about 40 minutes away. Her phone number was listed on an old parish newsletter. I called it. A woman answered on the third ring. Hello? Ruth Adler? I said. Yes, she said. Who is calling? My name is Daniel Hayes, I said. I am calling about Eleanor Crane. A very long silence. Daniel Hayes, she said at last. Quiet, measured. Eleanor's husband. Yes, I said. Or so I believe. Where is she? Ruth said. Her voice sharpened. What have you done with her? What has your family done with her? Please, I said. I don't know what happened. I was in the accident too. I lost my memory. When I woke up, there was a different woman. I only just found out the truth. I am trying to find her. Please help me. Another silence, longer this time. You didn't know, she said finally. Her voice had softened just a little. No, I said. I didn't know. I promise you. She told me to come to Breton that afternoon. She gave me her address. I told Laura I had a work situation to deal with. She looked up from her book and said fine. She did not ask anything else. I drove to Breton. Ruth's house was at the end of a quiet road with big trees on both sides. Small house, neat garden, white gate. She opened the door before I even reached it. She stood in the doorway and looked at me with very sharp blue eyes. She was a small woman, 60 or so, with gray hair cut close to her head. She studied my face as if she was reading it. Come in, she said at last. Her front room was warm and full of books, bookshelves on every wall, a small fire going even though it was not cold. She sat me down and put tea in front of me and sat across from me. Tell me what you know, she said. I told her everything, the album, the church, the newspaper, the beach photo, Tom's account. She listened without moving. When I finished, she said, Eleanor and I were best friends for 30 years, since we were 9 years old. We went to the same school, the same university. We talked every week without fail, even when she moved away. I knew her better than I knew anyone. Tell me about her, I said. Ruth looked at the fire. She was a primary school teacher, she said. She loved it. She was very good with children, patient and kind. She had a way of making children feel safe. She was quiet in big groups, but very funny when you knew her. She laughed easily. She was not a person who complained. She just got on with things. I thought about the beach photo, the laughter on her face. She had money, Ruth continued, not because she earned much as a teacher, but her parents died when she was in her 30s, both within a year of each other. They left her their house, land in the countryside, some substantial savings. Eleanor never talked about it much. It made her uncomfortable. She was not a person who cared about money, but other people cared about it, I said. Marcus cared about it, Ruth said. Her expression hardened. Marcus Crane, her cousin. He was always in debt. He was always asking Eleanor for loans. She helped him many times, more than he deserved. He was charming when he wanted something and cruel when he didn't get it. What did he do? I said. Ruth set down her cup. About 2 weeks after the accident, she said. Eleanor called me from the hospital. She was very frightened. She said Marcus had come to see her. He sat beside her bed, and he told her that you had woken up. But he said you were asking for a woman named Laura. He said the doctors had told him your memory of Eleanor was completely gone and would never come back. He said you had already started telling people that Laura was your wife. He said it would be kinder for Eleanor to accept it and move on. I felt sick. All of that was a lie, I said. Yes, Ruth said, but Eleanor didn't know that. She was in pain. She was alone. She was frightened. She had just lost the person she loved most. She was not thinking clearly. She believed him, I said. She was vulnerable, Ruth said. She trusted him because he was family, even though he had never been kind to her, even though she knew deep down that he was not a good person. When you are hurt and alone, sometimes you believe what you most fear because it feels like the truth. And then what? I said. 3 days later, Ruth said, I called the hospital to ask about Eleanor. They said she had been transferred to a private mental health facility. They said she had suffered a psychological breakdown following the trauma of the accident. I put my face in my hands for a moment. I pressed my palms against my eyes. Marcus had legal authority over her care, Ruth continued. He had applied for power of attorney while you were both in the coma. The hospital gave it to him because there was no one else. Her parents were dead. She had no siblings. You were unconscious. He was the closest relative. He planned it, I said. Yes, Ruth said. I believe he planned the whole thing from the moment of the accident, or perhaps even before. He knew about her assets. He knew that if she was declared mentally incompetent, he could control her estate. And Laura? I said. I don't know who that woman really is, Ruth said. But Marcus brought her in. I assume he found someone who resembled Eleanor enough to pass with a man who had lost his memory. He needed a plausible wife. Otherwise, you would start asking questions. Start looking for Eleanor. This way, you had a wife, a home, a life that felt complete. You had no reason to look. I thought about 7 years of dinners and Saturdays and curtains and soup. 7 years of believing I knew exactly who I was and where I had come from. And Eleanor's estate? I said. He sold the house, Ruth said. He sold the land. He liquidated the savings accounts. He had power of attorney, and she had been declared unfit to manage her affairs. It was all legal on paper. And no one questioned it? I said. I questioned it, Ruth said. I went to the facility to see her. The first time, they said she was not well enough for visitors. The second time, they said she had asked not to see me. The third time, Marcus met me in the car park and told me I was making her worse, and that if I came again, he would have me removed from the premises by force. Ruth's voice was steady, but very tight. I tried the police. I tried a solicitor, but I had no evidence of anything criminal. All the paperwork was in order. She was in a registered facility under the care of qualified doctors. What about those doctors? I said. I don't know how much they knew, Ruth said. Some of them may have genuinely believed she was unwell. She was traumatized. She had lost everything she loved. A person in that state can present in ways that look like serious mental illness, especially if the people around them are consistently confirming that narrative. I looked at Ruth's face. She had lived with this for 7 years too. The knowledge of what had happened to her friend, the inability to prove it or stop it. Where is she now? I said. Is she still at the facility? Ruth got up and went to the small desk in the corner. She opened a drawer and took out a piece of paper that had been folded and unfolded many times. She handed it to me. Stonebridge House, Camford, a phone number and a road address. I don't know what condition she is in, Ruth said quietly. 7 years in that place. I don't know what that has done to her. I looked at the address. I'm going today, I said. I called Tom on the drive. I told him quickly what Ruth had said. He was silent for a long time. I'll come, he said. We met in Camford at the edge of the town. Tom drove the last part so I could think. The road to Stonebridge House was narrow and lined with high hedges. The building appeared suddenly at the end of a long gravel drive. It was large and gray, 3 floors, iron gates, and CCTV cameras on posts. The windows had lights in them, but they were the kind of lights that don't look warm. We went to the reception desk. A nurse sat behind glass. We are here to see Eleanor Hayes, I said. I am her husband, Daniel Hayes. The nurse typed on her keyboard. The approved visitors list for that patient has one name on it, she said. Marcus Crane. Of course it does, Tom said under his breath. I leaned forward slightly. Please, I said. I know I'm not on the list, but she is my wife. Just tell her my name. Tell her Daniel is here. Let her decide if she wants to see me. The nurse looked at me. She looked at Tom. She seemed uncertain. Please, I said again. I believe she has been here against her will. I believe she has been lied to. Just tell her the name. If she says she doesn't want to see me, we will go immediately. The nurse picked up the phone. She turned away from us slightly and spoke in a low voice. We waited. A minute passed. 2 minutes. 5. Then a door opened at the far end of the corridor. A woman walked toward us. She was thin, very thin. Her face was pale and slightly hollow. She was wearing a white cardigan over a gray dress. Her hair was dark, but there was gray in it now, scattered at the temples. She was walking slowly, one hand touching the wall beside her, as if she was not entirely certain of the ground. But she had green eyes, large and bright and very green. Even from this distance, they were unmistakable. She stopped when she saw my face. Her hand came up and covered her mouth. Daniel, she said. The word barely made any sound. I didn't move for a moment. I didn't know what to do. 7 years. She had spent 7 years in this building. She had spent 7 years being told she was sick, being told I had replaced her, being told she didn't matter anymore. Eleanor, I said. She started to cry, not loudly, silent tears running down her face. She took one step forward and then stopped, as if she wasn't sure she was allowed to come closer. "It's okay," I said. "I know the truth now. I found the photos. I found Ruth." She pressed her lips together. She was trying very hard to hold herself together. A nurse led us to a small visitor's room near the entrance. We sat down. Tom waited outside. The nurse brought water. Eleanor sat across the table from me. She held the glass of water with both hands. She was still trembling slightly. She looked at my face for a long time. "You came," she said at last. "I'm sorry it took so long," I said. "Marcus told me," she said. Her voice was low and careful, as if she was choosing every word. "He told me you had moved on, that you had a new life. He said I needed to accept it. The doctors here repeated the same things. They said I had formed false memories. They said the marriage was not real. They said I was confused from the accident." "They were wrong," I said. "The marriage was completely real. I have the album. I have photos. I have the church records." She closed her eyes. "I knew," she whispered. "I always knew. But when everyone around you is telling you the same thing, day after day, year after year, you start to lose yourself. You start to wonder." "That was what he wanted," I said. She opened her eyes. "What are you going to do?" she said. "Go to the police," I said. "Tell them everything, with evidence." She looked at me for a long moment. "Will they believe us?" she said. "I think so," I said. "And Ruth will speak to them. And Tom, we are not alone." She looked down at the table. Then she looked up at me again. "You really don't remember me," she said. Not a question, just a statement. "No," I said. "The accident took those years. They are gone. I am sorry." She nodded once, slow and steady. "I know it was not your fault," she said. "No," I said. "It wasn't your fault either." She looked at me for a long time. I looked back. We were strangers in almost every way, but there was something in looking at her face that felt less like meeting a person and more like recognizing one. I drove back the next morning and went directly to the police station. I asked for a detective. They sent me to a man named Detective Haynes. Tall, quiet, with a gray suit and a careful way of listening. He sat across from me with his notebook and asked me to start at the beginning. I told him everything. The album, the church, the newspaper, Tom's account, Ruth's account, Stonebridge House, Eleanor. I laid out everything on his desk. The wedding album, the beach photo, the newspaper clipping, a copy of the marriage notice from the library archives. Haynes went through everything slowly. He did not rush. He did not dismiss anything. "This is a serious matter," he said when I finished. "Yes," I said. "I'll need to speak to the other witnesses," he said. "And I need to request records from Stonebridge House. That will take a few days." "She has been there for 7 years," I said. "Please don't let it take much longer." He looked at me. "I understand," he said. The next 3 days were the strangest of my life. I went home to Laura each evening. I sat at the dinner table. I watched television. I talked about ordinary things. All the while, I was meeting Detective Haynes at the police station in the afternoons, giving more statements, answering more questions. Tom gave his statement. Ruth gave hers. Eleanor gave hers by telephone from the facility, with a solicitor present. On the 3rd evening, Haynes called me. "We have spoken to the staff at Stonebridge House," he said. "We have the financial records from the estate transactions. We have corroborating statements from multiple witnesses." "And," I said. "We are issuing warrants," he said, for Marcus Crane, and for a woman currently known as Laura Porter. Her real name is Lauren Mary Voss. She has prior convictions for fraud under a different name, Lauren Voss, not even close to the name I knew. When? I said. Tomorrow morning, he said. Stay home. Behave normally. Do not give her any reason to leave. I went back to the front room. Laura was watching a program about home renovation. She looked up and smiled at me. Tea? She said. No, I said. Thank you. I sat in the armchair. I looked at her. 7 years of my life. I had cooked meals with this woman. I had been on holiday with her. I had trusted her completely, and she had known from the very first day exactly what she was doing. At 7:15 the next morning, 2 police cars came quietly down our road. No sirens. They parked outside the house. Laura was in the kitchen when she heard them. She went to the window. She looked out. She went very still. Then she turned and looked at me. We looked at each other across the kitchen. Your real name is Lauren Voss, I said. And the woman you replaced has been locked in a building for 7 years. She said nothing. Her face was completely closed. Whatever she was thinking, she kept it behind her eyes. The knock at the door, I opened it. The officers came inside. They arrested her in the hallway. She went quietly. She did not struggle or shout. She did not ask for me by name. She just looked at me one last time as they led her out. I never found out what that look meant. Marcus was arrested at the same time at his flat in London. He had packed a bag. He had a ticket for a flight the following morning. He had been planning to leave, but they were faster than he expected. The trial lasted 6 months. Eleanor gave evidence over 2 full days. I sat in the public gallery every day. I watched her walk to the witness stand. I watched her sit straight and speak clearly. She described the accident. She described Marcus coming to her bedside and telling her the lies. She described being taken to Stonebridge House. She described 7 years of being told she was ill, being told she was confused, being told her memories were not real. She did not cry, not once. Her voice was steady throughout. The jury listened in complete silence. I gave evidence too. I described waking from the coma. I described the memory loss. I described finding the album, the church, the photo. I described every step of the investigation. Tom gave evidence. Ruth gave evidence. The staff from the church gave evidence. The woman from the library archive gave evidence. Marcus tried to say Eleanor had been genuinely unwell, that he had acted in her best interest, that the financial transactions were all legal and proper. His solicitor was expensive and very careful, but the evidence was too strong. The jury found Marcus guilty on all charges: fraud, false imprisonment, theft, financial abuse of a vulnerable person. The judge sentenced him to 14 years in prison. He stood very still when the sentence was read. He did not look at Eleanor. He did not look at me. Lauren Voss entered a guilty plea on the 5th day of the trial. She was sentenced to 7 years. When we walked out of the courthouse, Eleanor and Ruth and Tom and I, it was raining lightly, a gray November afternoon, but the air felt clean and very still. Eleanor stood on the steps and breathed in deeply. She had been given permission to leave Stonebridge House during the trial process. She had been staying with Ruth in Breton. She looked different from the woman I had first seen in that visitor's room. She was eating properly. She was sleeping in a room with no locks on the outside. She was herself again. Slowly, but definitely, she turned to me. "It's done," she said. "Yes," I said. "What do you do now?" she said. "I don't know exactly. I said. Whatever feels right. She looked at me for a moment. Do you feel anything? She said. When you look at me, not a memory, just anything at all. I thought about it honestly. Yes, I said. I don't know what to call it, but yes, she nodded. Then we'll see, she said. And that was enough for both of us. That day, the months that followed were slow and careful. Eleanor moved into a small flat near Ruth's house. She had a window box where she grew herbs, mint and rosemary, and small yellow flowers whose name I didn't know. She had a gray cat named Marble, who slept in a patch of sunlight on the kitchen floor. She went back to teaching part-time at first, then full-time in the spring. She told me once that the first day back in a classroom was the best day she had experienced in 7 years. I visited a doctor about my memory. I had new scans done. The doctor explained again what had happened. The part of my brain that held my oldest memories, the years before the accident, had been damaged. It was not impossible that some memories might return. Small fragments sometimes, a smell, a sound, a feeling attached to nothing, but the gaps would likely always be there. I told Eleanor this. She listened. It doesn't matter, she said. We don't need the past. We have now. But sometimes small things came back to me. Not memories exactly, more like echoes. Once, walking through the park near her flat, I stopped suddenly in front of a particular bench. I stood there for a long time. I didn't know why. Eleanor stopped beside me. She said nothing for a moment. Then she said quietly, "You asked me to marry you on that bench." I looked at the bench, old wood, green paint, slightly peeling, a pigeon standing on the back of it. I didn't remember, but I felt something, like a door behind glass. "Tell me," I said. "It was raining," she said. "We had run from the cafe to the park because you said you wanted to show me something. You wouldn't say what. When we got to the bench, you sat down and pulled a ring box from your jacket. You were completely soaked. Your hair was flat on your head, and your shoes were making a squelching sound every time you moved." I smiled. "You said you had been carrying the ring for 2 weeks," she said, "waiting for the right moment. And then it rained, and you decided the rain was the right moment." She was smiling too, looking at the pigeon. "I said yes before you even finished the question," she said. We stood there in the park for a while, not saying anything, just standing. The pigeon flew away. The sun came out from behind a cloud, and the bench dried slowly in the light. I lived alone in the house I had shared with Laura. It was strange at first, very quiet. I changed the furniture. I repainted the front room. I bought new cups, small things, but they helped. There were days when the weight of it all came down on me. I would sit in the empty house and feel the 7 lost years pressing on my chest. 7 years of being kind to a woman who was deceiving me every single day. 7 years of believing I had a real marriage, a real home, a real life. And underneath all of it, Eleanor, sitting in a gray building, 30 miles away, alone, being told she didn't exist. On those days, I sometimes drove to the coast. I would park and walk along the beach. The cold air helped. The sound of the water helped. I did not know why. I had no memory of ever going to the coast before, but something in my body knew how to breathe there. One afternoon, sitting on the stone wall above the beach, I took out my phone and called Ruth. "How is she?" I said. "She is good today," Ruth said. "She laughed 3 times at breakfast." I counted. I smiled. "She asked about you this morning," Ruth said. "What did she ask?" I said. She asked if you were all right, Ruth said. She worries about you. She says you carry things quietly and nobody notices. I looked at the sea. Tell her I'm fine, I said. She'll know you're not being completely honest, Ruth said. She always knows. I thought about that. Tell her I'm getting there, I said. That, Ruth said, I will tell her. I met Eleanor for coffee one Wednesday afternoon by accident. I was buying apples at the Saturday market. I turned around and she was there with a bunch of yellow flowers in her arms. She looked as surprised as I was. Then she laughed. Apples, she said. You always bought apples on Saturdays. Did I? I said. Every single week, she said. You would always get too many, and half of them would go soft in the bowl. I laughed. It surprised me. We walked through the market. We sat at a small table outside a bakery and drank coffee. We talked easily, not about Marcus or the trial, about her students, about a book she was reading, about the cat, about nothing important and everything important at the same time. I called her that evening. Would you like to have dinner? I said. Just dinner, no expectations. Yes, she said, just dinner. We had dinner at a small Italian place on the high street. She ordered the pasta and then noticed I had ordered the same thing. She hadn't meant to. She laughed again when she realized. I always did that, she said. Why? I said. Because you always chose better than me, she said. We had dinner again, the week after that, and again after that. On Sunday mornings, we walked along the river. Sometimes we talked a lot. Sometimes we walked quietly for long stretches without saying anything at all. That felt comfortable too. It did not feel like silence between strangers. One Sunday in February, she said to me, I want to tell you something. Those first years in Stonebridge, I was so angry at you. I thought you had chosen to forget me, chosen someone else. I hated you sometimes. That was completely reasonable, I said. But then the anger went, she said. And what replaced it was something like pity for you, because you had been robbed too. 7 years of your life built on a lie. He took from both of us, I said. Yes, she said, but he miscalculated. He thought he had taken everything. He thought the thing between us was just a detail, a memory, something that could be erased. She stopped walking. She looked at the river. But it wasn't just a memory, she said. It was something in you that he couldn't reach. I looked at her. That is how you found me, she said. Not because you remembered, but because something in you was still looking. I had nothing to say to that, but I think she was right. We have not rushed anything. We have not tried to go back to something that was already gone. The people who stood in Elmwood Church on that June afternoon were younger and different, and they are not coming back. But we are here, now, in the November rain, and the Saturday market, and the small Italian restaurant, and the river on Sundays. We are here, and we are learning each other again for the first time. Eleanor is in the kitchen now. She is drinking tea. Marble is asleep on the chair. She is telling me about one of her students, a small boy named Oscar, who insists on drawing all the letters backwards, but does it with great confidence. She is laughing, and I remember something the old man at Elmwood Church said to me back at the very beginning when all of this was just a white box in an attic. He said, "A lovely woman, very quiet and very kind." He was right about both. She is Eleanor. She is my wife. And if you are reading this or watching this somewhere, thinking about your own life and the people in it, I want to tell you one thing. The things that are real do not disappear just because someone hides them. Truth is patient. It waits. It leaves small signs in old boxes and dusty albums and the handwriting on the back of a photograph. And one day, if you are paying attention, you find it. You always find it. I found mine on a dusty Saturday morning in an attic, in a white box, in an old album with a faded ribbon. I found her. The end.